Thanks, Michelle.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's the Town Council meeting for Monday, August 3rd, 2020. New Shoreham Town Council is meeting via telecommunications pursuant to the State of Rhode Island Executive Order 2046, dated June 12th, 2020. For Zoom access, dial 888-788-0099 or 833-548-0276. The meeting ID is 929-0421-4106, and the password is 953906. Meeting this evening with us is the Town Council, myself, Sven Reesum, Christopher Willie, Second Warden Andre Boudreau, Councilor Martha Ball, Interim Town Manager Jim Kern is with us this evening as well. As well as other participants will be identified as the meeting progresses. The first item on the agenda this evening is Warden's report.
Excuse me, Ken.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you start with the Board of License Commissioners meeting?
Yeah, I guess I can. Okay, I won't. It's not the way the agenda is arranged, but I can certainly do that. Sure.
Sure, it is, isn't it?
Not the agenda I was looking at that I printed out, but we can certainly do that. First item on the agenda will be.
Excuse me, are there two separate agendas?
There are two separate agendas.
Okay.
They have the same login information. It's the same password and code, so it'll be seamless from the user point of view.
Okay. So the first item on the agenda then will be to add to the Board of Commissioners. Councilor Willie, will you be recusing?
I will, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Chapter 2013 of the Public Laws of Rhode Island, approved in April 1956, as amended, that the following application for a transfer of beverage license has been made to the Town of New Shoreham Town Clerk as follows. It's a transfer of a Class BV liquor license, stockholders only. The transfer of stockholders only of a Class BV liquor license for On Island Entertainment Management, Inc., doing business as Captain Nick's, Ocean Avenue, Plat 6, Lot 3-1, from stockholder Mark Scortino to stockholder Christopher Willie. We're having a public hearing tonight on this issue for acting on the application, and via Zoom, with remonstrants are entitled to be heard before the granting of said licenses. So the item we're taking up is a transfer of, as I said, it's a transfer of stockholders only of a Class B liquor license. Molly, just to confirm, is Councilor Marola on with us?
She was going to be calling in. I'm not.
Okay.
Kathy, are you there?
Councilor Marola? Molly, could you follow up on that?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so back to the agenda item. Does anyone on the council have any questions or comments? Martha, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a question, just for the record. The property is leased, is that correct? Who's representing the applicant?
Martha, I'm here. It's Jeff Willie.
Thank you, Jess.
Oh, good. Thank you, Jeff.
Can you answer that?
And this property is
property
leased
is
from whom?
Correct, from Mike Finnemore.
Okay, good. And the other question,
Speak up, Martha.
I can't remember the rest of the question. Oh, I think those were my two questions. Was someone here and was from whom was the property leased? So I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. I will point out, we do have a completed application before us, including all the necessary items covered, including information, menus, and that sort of thing. Andre or Sven, did you have a question, either of you?
I do not.
One quick
Go ahead, Sven.
question that the applicant may be able to answer. Are they going to be open? I noticed October, November, they're going to be closed, I believe. Are they going to be open till October? Is that the plan? Just looking.
Yes?
The plan is shifting daily, as you can imagine. But if we do intend to extend into October, then we would come back and apply or ask for that. But as of now, no. As of now, just through what has applied for.
I believe the question is whether or not you're going to be open until October, right?
Oh, and
Yeah.
well, I think the application is through Labor Day.
No, when are you opening? I think is the question, isn't it?
Well, the answer to that is we don't know when we're opening because we don't have the liquor license yet, and so we can't do ordering or anything without that. So the hope is that we can open this weekend or next weekend, and just to be open for a few weekends and try to work this out. And we would, if things are going okay, and depending on the regulations at the state level at the time, because we don't know what phases we're going to be in or what's going to be happening, that we would extend possibly into September, depending on what's happening again with the state's regulations and rules.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Anyone else have any comments or questions? Molly, do you have any indicated?
I do not. Thank you.
Did you ascertain whether or not Kathy Marola has joined us?
Kathy has joined you.
Great, thank you. Okay.
I have another question.
Go ahead, Martha.
It's just a technicality. Is Chris the sole stockholder, Jess?
Yes,
So can we
Or,
just get a
no,
letter?
majority stockholder.
Okay. Are you a stockholder as well?
No.
Then could we just get a letter from the majority stockholder for the file that you were authorized to represent him?
Yes, that's fine.
That's just a technicality. I think it would be better to have that in place than not.
Martha, you can always assume to represent Chris Willie.
Well, I understand. I think I want it right.
Yes, we'll get you the letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha. All right, hearing no other further comments, I'll make a motion to grant a transfer of Class BV liquor license stockholders only for On Island Entertainment Inc. DBA Avenue, Plat 6, Lot 3-1. Stockholder Mark Scorsese, stockholder Christopher Willie, receipt of Rhode Island Division of Taxation, pending the payment of advertising fees, and to grant permission to close from October 1st, 2020 to November 30th, 2020, and to further require the correction of any fire code violations and that food be available at a sandwich level as opposed to offering snack foods during all times alcoholic beverages. That's the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Martha.
Second.
Motion made by Ken, seconded by Martha, to grant the license as requested request a transfer, transfer the license. Requested. Any further comments at this time? Hearing none, all those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris, I'm sorry. Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative also. Motion carries with one recusal of Chris. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Good luck with it, folks. Chris, you want to join us back on? Very good. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda will be Warden's report. There'll be several discussions about the what's going on in the island later in the meeting, so I'll just keep it short but sweet. Here as we sit on August 3rd, 2020, we're looking at our first named storm of the season coming our way anyway. We anticipate it to pass by us in a day or two, and but we're hoping it's not going to be any major event, just a bit of a storm. So just a warning to everyone that they should, if they're not aware, they should probably take some precautions in terms of preparing for a storm event with either their boats or their homes or their yards, lashing things down, tying things down, getting anything that might blow around moved. The wind is supposed to be supposedly out of the southeast to southwest, so just keep that in mind. And I wish everybody luck. Andre, did you have anything for this evening?
I do not tonight. Thank you, Ken.
All right, Andre, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public input. We have had several letters, but those are pertaining to items that will probably come up later on the agenda. Does anyone have anything else for us at this time? Bill?
Yeah, Ken, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm unmuted yet.
Yeah.
We just want to let people know, it says on the website, what we're looking on, subject to a change in weather, the last boat to the island tomorrow will be at 11:45, and the last boat leaving the island will be at 3 o'clock. We're expected, like you said, the storm to move through fairly quickly. That's all subject to, the weather forecast. And then hopefully we'll move through quick, and we'll look at Wednesday afternoon at the opportunity of possibly restarting the schedule.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Next item on the agenda was originally scheduled to be a public hearing on Town of New Shoreham zoning section 202, develop a land at a request, but as a request of applicants, the Black Island Land Trust, Black Island Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy, we will be postponing this public hearing this evening. To Molly, we do this to a date yet to be determined, correct?
That's correct. The applicants weren't sure what date in the fall they wanted. They'll come to us about a month before their due date, so the application can be re-advertised and re-noticed.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take no action on this tonight. Any questions? Next item on the agenda will be to discuss and act on the status of emergency medical services on Block Island, follow up on the weekend activities. This is a follow-up of our discussion we had last week as a result of several complaints and as a result of the stress and strain put on the rescue squad last weekend. So we decided we want to, some actions have been initiated primarily by Chief Carlone and acting with interim town manager Jim Kern and others. And so we decided to come back to this item this evening to do a follow-up on it. Jim Kern, if you're on, did you have anything you want to lead off with?
I am. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, as long as you stay close enough.
All right. And if it freezes, I'll come back on the phone. It's been pretty good so far, but I've had a couple of little episodes here where you guys have all gone stagnant. As Ken mentioned, weekend before last, difficult, number of bad accidents, and so there were a number of things suggested by residents, but also last week representatives of the rescue squad and the fire department. Before I forget and move too far, of the 5 that the fire chief highlighted, moving the rock down by by Ballards. Friday was accomplished by Bain Transu and Mike Shea. So I wanted to do that before I got into the moped discussion. The other things on that list: signage at Old Harbor Dock for no jumping, and reinstate the Moped and Bike Safety Commission. Some of these are longer term, some shorter term, but I want to let people know they haven't fallen off the list. So Sven Reesum, Lieutenant Dean, Mike Fenimore, and John Leone and I met Friday. The chief was escorting a fugitive to the mainland, so Lieutenant Dean stood in for him. A useful conversation. We went over the immediate plan, which was to use a security company funded by the moped operators. That was started Saturday. You'll remember Friday wasn't a particularly advantageous day weather-wise. In both Saturday and Sunday, we were looking for 2 people. We ended up with 1 security person each day. A number of things came up in that conversation, including the disposition of that person, or persons, where should they be. The group settled on the corner of High Street because it was, or the beginning of High Street, because it was such an area of concern the previous weekend and has been in other weekends. Both operators acknowledged that. So in Saturday, I know he was stationed there most of the day. Most people considered it an effective use of the single security person. I will say this coming weekend, we are looking to have at least 2 each day, and we are shooting for as many as 4. The idea there would be 1 on High Street, and if we have a second one, it would be roving, but concentrating on trouble areas. We got some reports back from the west side of the island where there was some erratic operation to that point. Another thing we're going to talk about the security company, talk to the security company about is maybe using body cameras or similar technology so we can identify this behavior that will support the charging of individuals operating in ways that they were clearly instructed not to. Biggest emphasis for me in that conversation was to make sure that people didn't leave the property that were incapable of operating the equipment, either because of being under the influence or just fundamentally not capable. I know this isn't a new issue. I know it's an issue that just came up last week, but it seems to me a contributor to particularly serious accidents. I know there's a lot of other misbehavior, leaning on horns, basically hot rodding. There are a lot of conversations about whether the bikes are 50 cc. The answer is that they are. Whether there are governors on the machines, and they're not necessarily on privately owned machines, but they are on the rental ones. We talked about a number of longer range issues. Another potential short-term issues was purchase of portable breath tests, particularly for the operator down adjacent to Old Harbor. We talked about kids being placed in front of renters, and then a number of other longer range issues, including having insurance affected in the case of an accident or misbehavior. Different color helmets for each rental company, which I have to admit I didn't recognize. I probably still don't recognize the significance of that, but everybody else participating in the meeting thought it would be useful. I think part of it is identification of people who are misbehaving, and we've had a number of other suggestions from people through the week. Talking to the chief today, he considered the weekend 80% better than the previous week, and that the institution of the security personnel, as much as it was not as many as we wanted, to be generally effective, particularly in the use at High Street. pretty much got all of it. Oh, we'll be meeting regularly. I expect to be out later in the week, and we'll repeat this meeting so that we can provide feedback and consider to pursue things. As everyone knows, we have about, we're into August, so some of these things are going to be works in progress that may not come to fruition this year, but that doesn't, that may be the case with some, and there may be the case with others that we can make changes like we did with the personnel. And I expect the security personnel to continue indefinitely, not just this year, but into next year, and to be used in a way where, for those that weren't listening last week, and I expect there aren't many on this call that weren't, but to be used in a way where they can intervene in misbehavior or frankly, people who are incapable of operating the equipment, suspend the contract on the spot, take the keys, and if appropriate, interact with our law enforcement such that people can be summoned later, so as not to create 45-minute interactions with the law enforcement personnel. I'll stop there. That's kind of a recap of last weekend, and as I said, we'll be meeting again this weekend in anticipation of the coming weekend.
Thank you, Jim. Chris, I see your hand up. I was going to try to hear from EMS personnel. Do you want to go ahead now with your question, though?
It's specific to what Jim was talking about, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Jim, what metrics are we using to deem anything a success? Meaning, you can put security personnel down there, but how are we gonna measure whether or not there's any effect or any effectiveness to it? Understanding that these security personnel are being paid by the operators. So I'm just curious as to how we're gonna measure success moving forward, because I don't see any measurable metrics other than just saying that we're gonna, that the moped operators are gonna have security personnel. But what powers do these security personnel have in confronting or voiding any, I think, contract on the spot or anything like that? I mean, it's kind of the fox watching the hen house, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting that phrase came up during our meeting with the representatives of those two companies. So let's start back at the beginning. What are the metrics? And then we'll get to kind of a measurable in terms of, I mean, the second part of the question was, is somebody who's acting on behalf of an owner, and this came up last, are they going to be operating in the best interest of the objective? And I used the example last week of security people at an entertainment venue, a basketball game or baseball game, or a concert, or a restaurant, bar license at stake. I see their involvement similarly, and more importantly, the police chief does and the operators do. So that's the motivation, because if I think the message was made clear, although both moped operators will represent that they've been doing it a long time and they've had difficult weekends before. I think the message was sent that the previous weekend was extraordinary in a couple ways. Now, back to the more basic question, what are the metrics? I think, admittedly, for right now, given that it was one guy and one weekend, they're mostly anecdotal. But I think number of trips up and down High Street is one. Number of serious accidents, although there are all kinds of inputs into that kind of result. But I think people can tell whether there were that many people going up High Street, hitting the dirt road, not knowing where they're going, circling back, etc. So a combination of anecdotal, but also real events, real negative outcomes, which are essentially accidents and injuries. We might eventually count the number of interactions that result in people's keys being taken, but actually we want that number to be low, because that means people are behaving. If we have a high number, that means people are misbehaving, and then we're taking keys. So it may be a situation where the curve starts high but we want it to come low. But we also, I think, would consider that if the word gets out and people are comprehending, and one of the things I emphasize to the two operators, if they make it clear before you leave the property that the security people are going to be out there, then you want a low level of intervention, and your other metrics, which we can work on, your other metrics, fewer accidents, just fewer people misbehaving in the typical areas that they misbehave.
I'll give you a minute. Give me a minute, Chris. Sven Reeson, go ahead.
Just following up on that, Chris, I had the exact same statement, Fox in the Hen House. I think that's what Jim was referring to. What I learned was that the security force is actually brought in by and reporting to the police department. The funding is by the operators, and I believe the chief specifically is directly responsible and bringing in these folks. So it's much more of an, I was very worried, like you said, Chris, of, okay, so it's a young kid who is just, going from the moped operator shop down to the end of the street, standing there. And this guy, was dressed in yellow. He didn't have anything to do with the mopeds. I did see him, and I watched him interact. And he really has, from his perspective, he works for the chief or for the police department. So I felt better about that. And I don't think that it's worth to say, for anybody to say that was the reason for a reduced accident weekend. I think, like Jim said, it was one of the things. And I think we're going to have to see how this weekend, which is obviously a lot more active and I'll use the word problematic, how this weekend turns out. But at least it was a first step. So we need to set up metrics. I think you're exactly right. But my observations at least was somebody stopped many mopeds from turning up High Street. Hopefully that helps.
Chris, you want to pick a conversation back up?
Yes, and to build on what Sven said, I want to remind everybody that we've had this discussion before, and a lot of the suggestions that we've gotten this week have already been brought up, and it's the fact that there hasn't been any action on them. And I know Ed Roberge the former town manager, had a plan. I thought it was moving forward into last summer, and it just simply wasn't executed. And part of that plan was adding on CSOs. And this is what I view these security personnel, which apparently are reporting to the police department as, is they're just an extension of that. Well, we should be looking at adding CSOs to assist in that road, just Weldon's Way in general. The other part of this discussion that happened over a year ago, prior to last summer, of implementing was vehicular traffic control and pedestrian traffic control and bicycle traffic control. And that's on Water Street, and it's been non-existent for the past 2 summers. And that has to be remembered, okay? Like, we can talk about all these security personnel specific to mopeds, but there's a bigger picture here. And we have to have some accountability and some execution of what this council, as well as the former town manager, and I don't expect Jim to know anything about this because he's probably just hearing about it for the first time. But there was a plan moving forward prior to last summer of how it was going to work, pan out, and it didn't. And it's unfortunate that it takes the stress of our EMTs, which are at half capacity but double the work, to wake everybody up. And I'm happy that there's things being done now, but I don't want this council to forget, moving into the fall and the winter, of what discussions happened prior to this, and all of our citizens that have been writing letters with these suggestions. A lot of these suggestions have been brought up. We've asked that they be executed, and they just haven't been. And so I want to keep that at the forefront of the discussion. And I think, these are positive steps, but we have 2, possibly 3 more weeks left of the high season, right? So this, I guess, would be a measuring stick to see how it works and be part of the discussion for next summer, but it can't be dropped. This discussion's been dropped far too many times. Mopeds right up there with deer. And I think you have a group of operators that would be willing to work with the town if we have an actionable plan, and if that conversation actually consistently takes place from NSPD with these operators and with the town managers and with the council. So that's all I have to say on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Tracy, Frederick, comment?
Well, I just want to say, this weekend was significantly better, which is, positive. I'm not, we can, not sure exactly why. We did see quite a bit of enforcement out there. We saw a lot of bad behavior still, just not resulting in, the accidents we've seen in previous weekends and weekdays. So, we're thrilled to see that people weren't getting hurt, people weren't, over served or over drinking. And so, if things are going to stay like this, we're happy we saw more helmets. It seemed like we were really paying attention to, just people in general and their behavior. So, there was no accidents at the town dock, people jumping off. So that's great. That's another piece. No calls as far as people being overserved at any of the restaurants or on the beaches or anything like that. So I don't know, let's keep moving forward like this.
Okay. Andre, do you have your hand up?
I do, Ken. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Chris and, the history on, the discussion of Weldon's and whatnot that was going on. And that, one thing Chris didn't mention was, we had I think he was a summer guy. It was Al Davis. He was a nice guy. And he presented to us a whole traffic plan for Block Island. And some of that was instituted, and I think the rest of it was just forgotten. So I would put that back in the spotlight, Al Davis's traffic plan. We did have one good weekend, but I don't want anybody to think that that we are gonna let the heat down on this, because we have VJ Day weekend coming up. Today was a much worse day from what I could gather in town than the whole weekend put together. So you just can't, weekends, we get help on weekends, but it's every day of the week that we are having this issue. So, there are things I'd like to see done. And I'm the one who asked about the CCs and the 50 CCs on the mopeds. And I would like to see somebody certifying that those, some independent agency or some person to make sure that those have not been modified. Because if you look at the maker of the moped, you can go look at the maker of the moped and you look it up online. Those mopeds are rated for 30 miles an hour, restricted, and unrestricted is 40. Now, I have a 50cc moped, and I cannot get up Spring Street with just myself on that thing with the throttle full open going faster than 23 miles an hour. So if a 50cc moped is carrying two people on that thing at 30 miles an hour passing me, I have to doubt that that's the case. So I would like to see somebody certify that those haven't been modified. I'd like to see people be required to wear real shoes and not sandals, and that's a rescue thing. It's the feet that go first. Jim, I know you got an email about, the police were called on a group of mopeds, and whether they responded to the effectiveness or the satisfaction of the person who called or not. I'd like you to just direct our police force to just try to be a little more vigilant with the enforcement of the madness that's going on the roads. And one thing I'd like to see, and we can do this now, is that we don't get the accident reports from the mopeds. I've learned that when there's a moped accident, no accident reports are filled out. Why is that? If I hit something, I get an accident report. So I was told it's because nobody's asking for accident reports. So I'm going to officially ask tonight, right now, that we make it a policy that for every accident we see on a moped, a report is filled out. I don't know if a motion is to be made on that, but I think that's information that we can use, so we're not making policy on hearsay. That's all I have right now, but like I said, I know we're going to go into, VJ Day weekend. It's going to be a madhouse again, and we're going to hear, well, it was VJ Day weekend. You got to expect that. No, I don't expect that. Neither do our residents. So I'm hoping that these things that you're working on with the operators and the chief and these things work out. I mean, it's all we can hope for. I can tell you, I think a lot of us are not optimistic about that. However, this is what we have right now, and I'm willing to roll with that. But I'm also prepared to take more drastic measures if nothing better happens. So just to recap, I'd like to see real shoes on people, and I want accident reports.
Thank you, Andre. Chris, your hand up? Chris Willie?
It's for,
Karen, I've been in my hand for quite a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, Martha.
let Martha speak and then I'll come back.
Martha, I had no indication that you wanted to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I was pushing the wrong things. I have several things here. Fox in the hen house, we keep hearing that. And I'm just going to say, back in, May, perhaps it was, when all of a sudden everybody wants to open up, upstate wants to open up, all the big businesses want to open up. And I found that really frightening. And the only thing I heard from the rest of the council, as far as I can remember, was the businesses will all police themselves. Nobody wants the epidemic at their business. I believe that then. I still think, but what applies to one person applies to another person. I do think this past weekend was markedly better. I thought today was crazy, and I'm downtown. I saw one of the things that I saw over the weekend were that really struck me that I've seen before. I think we've all seen are for lack of a better term, packs or herds, or I used to jokingly refer to them as mayhem of mopeds, but they're traveling in groups of 6 or 7. And the guy down at the foot of High Street by Weldon's Way, he was turning away 7 at a time, and all he was doing was, stepping out and saying, you can't get to the lost from here. Another sort of a subcategory, and probably the moped people have among themselves that savvy to fix this, are to create some kind of proper map on, moped map app. You go in and look for directions. They send you over Pilot Hill. They send you over Doris Cove. There's no distinction between what you're driving and what's a town road. I think it says it's a town road, but it's, people are just going to look at, it's a 1/10 of a mile shorter. I'm going to go this way, which is, is nonsense. I still think we've got a lot more going on besides mopeds, but it really today felt much worse than the weekend felt. I see a very limited area. I did drive around through Bridgegate today, and it just happened to be boat traffic. And I know boat traffic is crazy, but and I'm not buying that this is the end. The summer is going to end at Labor Day this year. We didn't think the season was going to begin as early as it did, and everything. There's so much still up in the air about when people are going back, and if people are going back to school for real, if we're having distance learning, if people are going to be working remotely. I think I don't think we can definitively say that right now. And I'm not really interested in long-term plans right now. I just want to get this through this summer. Don't want this nonsense. I don't want to be talking about what kind of complicated, elaborate global scheme we're going to do. You know how I am about global. It's just, if we have to do we need to cut the number of mopeds for next weekend? I don't believe that. I think this weekend was an anomaly. The weekend after the 4th of July was not crazy either. The others have been. And I think we're all being delusional if we think this is going to change just because a few people are saying, I think we have to be really serious about the fact we have, in a pandemic, health and welfare does trump other things. I really believe that, and I really believe that if we put those numbers down temporarily for the duration of the season, I'm not sure who's going to actually say this is wrong. when we're facing what we're facing, the number of people who are coming over here, and we've got a rescue squad that was tapped out a weekend ago. That's about it for now.
Chris?
This is actually for Tracy, and I've asked this of previous rescue squad captains, and it speaks to the data or the records that, or what your responders see specifically to bike accidents and moped accidents. And this kind of goes back to what Andre said about footwear. In order for us to actually make progress or identify areas of improvement other than just don't rent to people that can't operate, okay? Like, there's got to be other, is it double riders? Is it no helmet? Is it flip flops? Is it sandy roads? Is it drunk and disorderly? Like, if we have, out of the 60 moped accidents, in a month, what attributed to the potential accident? And if just so we have some talking points, specifically when we go to the moped operators and say, look, 50% of your accidents are coming from double riders that have flip-flops on, and they're put whatever. I think kind of aggregating a little bit of information specific to the accidents. Like Andre said, there's no accident report, so we can't actually look at anything as a town and as a group to identify what was going on. Because I've seen some crazy things as well. In front of my shop, I saw 3 people go by on a moped twice over the 4th of July, with the one rider that the second guy was supposed to be on behind them, following them. See, that would be good information. Well, that guy got in an accident because there was 3 people on a moped. So, or head injuries because they didn't have their helmets on. So anyway, I mentioned it to Kate McConville when she was a captain. I don't know where it went or I think it would be helpful to have some of that data and be able to use it to take some actionable measures moving forward. So if you can keep that in your mind moving forward, it'd be great. Just so we have something when it comes to the October reports, we might be able to look at it all and say, hey, this was a cause of a number of accidents, and address that specifically.
So going forward, we've absolutely been, we've talked about reporting, being more specific about, was it 2 people on moped? We always talk about whether they're wearing a helmet or not, and everything you mentioned is very relevant. The helmets make a huge difference. I mean, that's one of the first things we ask them when we get on scene. And there's a huge difference with somebody wearing a helmet as opposed to somebody not wearing a helmet. We always look over the helmet and they hit their head. I mean, that's very important, I think. Also, proper clothing. People are seriously hurting their feet, because that's the first thing that tends to go down. So I think, working on that with the moped renters, on having them wear not flip-flops, sneakers, closed toe, because that could be make a significant difference. The thing about groups of mopeds, I think that's another significant, group mentality. You see, I'm sure all of us have seen it. We've all mentioned it before. I have people calling me all the time saying, "What about this group of mopeds that just went by?" And they're, standing up on their mopeds. They're going down the sides of the roads. They're jumping, over rocks and stuff. So I don't know if there's anything that could be done about that. I mean, it's having enforcement out there watching the behaviors and trying to call people out on that behavior. I think that would significantly help with it. Not just with mopeds either, with people in general. But as far as that goes, I definitely think that could make a difference. 2 people on a moped. We often hear on scene, what we ask, what caused the accident, and a lot of times they'll come back and say is, well, I was turning and then the person on the back shifted and that's what caused the accident. So a lot of times it's sand on the roads, and you'll see there's a lot of very similar places where accidents happen. Spring Street by the Spring House, Coonimus Road, where you're going, heading onto West Side Road. There's some pretty common places that these accidents happen. And it's usually around the turn where there might be some sand in the road. So if we could work on all of those things going forward. And, as far as reporting goes, we're actively trying to report, be more specific about the circumstances of moped accidents, bike accidents also.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Andre?
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I know there's been some dialogue since Martha, but I just want to say that I agree and I'm on board with what Martha is saying 100%. If we want to reduce those numbers by half, we want to do that, I'm on board with that. There's another thing too that, I want to ask the question is like, don't you have to rent your mopeds from your own property? Like, isn't the license tied to the owner's property?
Yes, and we went through that last year.
Okay, so yes, we did go through that last year, and there's an operator renting for somebody else not on that property. So what are we going to do about that? I mean, I think we just have to direct the town manager to tell them that they need to rent mopeds on their own property. I mean, is that what you remember from the conversation last year, Sven?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, it was my understanding that had been corrected. Now, sure may have slipped back for all obvious reasons, but I agree with Andre that we should direct the town manager to do that, quote unquote, immediately. If that's true. I mean.
Can anybody fill us in on that, on the detail on that then, so we can have an answer now?
Jim, are you still on the phone? Jim Kern? I think he switched over to phone. Wait a minute.
He's on, he's muted. I'll try
I
to.
don't know where he is. I can't find him.
I'm here. I'm not muted on my end.
Now we hear you.
Okay. As it relates to renting the proper number out of the proper properties, I have had that conversation with each of the operators and the chief. I think it's something that's gone back some number of years, and we want to make sure that the unintended consequence wasn't worse than the intended consequence, which is to say worse traffic on Weldon's Way, worse interruption in that part of town. So it's on the list of things we're doing, but as Sven said, it has been overcome by more serious considerations, but it's not something that's going to go away. Since I'm on and I may not be able to get back on, a couple other things, going all the way back to one of Chris's earlier conversations. I agree with him that a serious ongoing conversation with the operators, not that they're not working in their own interest and trying to make money, but I think it kind of if the town is able to put together a plan or framework or whatever you want to call it and stay with it and give the operators the feeling that they're going to stay with it, I do get the sense that that would be beneficial from their side too. And I didn't mention earlier that a couple of things that we do expect to use the CSOs that we do have to augment the security personnel, and we did have some significant conversations about hours of operation. I know that maybe hasn't come up tonight, but it did last week, and it was frustrating to some of us that we're rolling. We've had already a difficult day, and we're going to keep going and rent at 4 o'clock, and we're going to rent at 5 o'clock. That conversation's going to continue, because that's another one that has the potential to have negative unintended consequences where we bunch up a lot of rentals. I personally am not fully convinced with the answer that curtailing hours wouldn't be beneficial, but I am trying to listen to people who have been watching this longer than I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Sven, go ahead.
Jim, just to make sure I wasn't misunderstood, I I think if there is a moped operator who is not renting the signed mopeds from their property as stated in the contract, then we should, I'm going to say, immediately shut that moped operator down. They're breaking the contract and they're violating the rules of the agreement. And I thought it had been cleared up. Andre brought it up. If that's a problem, then that should tomorrow be solved. I didn't realize it was still a problem. So if you could look into that, and if we need the council to direct, I just think that that's something that's beyond the pale, and it had been discussed by Ed Roberge, it had been discussed by the council, it had been agreed to by the moped operators, and it's in the contract. So I don't think that should go. I think we should just check and
You there, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, Jim. Martha Ball, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. We've talked about this before. I don't know how many times we've talked about it. And you guys are really beginning to annoy me. This is a land use issue. Mopeds, rental of mopeds is a pre-existing non-conforming use. Mark Tilson sat there at a meeting, our building official, and he confirmed what I was saying. So this isn't just me talking. If you need a guy to say it, Mark Tilson said it. It is a land use issue that's not negotiable. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use. This hasn't got anything to do with anybody's contract or what somebody agreed to in some court case. This is a land use issue. And Mark confirmed it. And so talk to Mark Tilson.
So we're in agreement, Martha, that if it's not being followed, they should be shut down.
But you've got to do it for the right reasons, and you've got to talk to Mark Tilson, who understands this and can explain it.
And Ken, if I can, I think you need to also fully understand where the restrictions come from, if the restrictions apply. So I think we're talking about a number of different things here, and I think we want to do it in the correct way. I guess I would say it that way. And I'm not suggesting that it not be done. I just want to do it in a way that's the proper way, and we'll do that.
Yeah, I think that, I think, Jim, what you're hearing is that, this council wants that property thing enforced. And I will hope you will do that tomorrow. We want you to act on this.
That will have to be with the advice of council.
I think Martha gave you the advice. Talk to the building official. I mean, I trust Martha with the historical context of any of this more than any council that we can hire. So I would follow what Martha said. And Martha, I appreciate your comments on that, because I know that you've been here, been through this since the 80s. You have the historical context. I'm not going to listen to some, solicitor telling me or whatever. I think
referring to the process.
Well, no, wait. There's but the process is not. We have a land use attorney as well as a town solicitor, and our land use attorney understands this.
Very good. Tom Warkup, I noticed you're on. Did you have any comments you wanted to make for us while you're on this evening?
So we definitely had a significant reduction in the severity of injury this weekend compared to the last weekend. Small sample size for sure to link any causality, but certainly interesting. We started to invigorate a study that talked about footwear. I'm agreeing completely with Chris Willey that I think creating and getting you the data on any item lends credence to any actions that you want to take. But we had 13 moped and bike accidents and 7 life flights last weekend, which included Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This weekend, we had 5 moped bike accidents and 0 life flights. So small sample size for sure, but interesting causality potentially, and we appreciate all the actions that have been taken.
Thank you, Tom. Other comments or questions? council or otherwise?
Ken, I just have a question. How do you feel about all this?
Andre?
We've heard us talking the whole time. How do you feel about this?
I feel that there obviously should be action taken, that we need to follow up on any violations that are occurring in terms of land use. We need to be, need to stress to the operators and the renters themselves that either improper clothing being worn or improper actions on the mopeds will not be tolerated. It's like a motorcycle. If you ride a motorcycle without shoes on or with flip-flops on, you get pulled over. If you ride a motorcycle without eyewear, you get pulled over. So I think it should all be enforced, and look forward to having the private enforcement entities assisting the department in identifying and perhaps dealing with those the miscreants.
Thank you. So we seem, so I can assume that we are unanimous here in all of these points.
There seems to be some consensus. We haven't taken a vote yet, but there seems to be some consensus, yes.
Thank you.
And I had brought up the point about the land use issue earlier in the spring. And we just, it just, with everything that was going on, it just fell by the wayside. But I had brought it up with Jim, I think. Comments or questions or actions anyone wants to have?
I just hope we continue to move forward.
Go ahead.
Just, we have a busy weekend coming up, and I just hope we can keep the momentum up and really keep some enforcement out there, make sure that the people renting the mopeds are really doing what they need to do to keep people safe. It's great to, see that we didn't have as many really significant injuries to our visitors this past weekend. So.
Thank you, Tracy. Kirk Littlefield.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the state police. They were out in force giving out tickets. I watched one of them actually make somebody walk back and get glasses because he did not have glasses. Hopefully that's been rectified. Talked to the chief of police out here, and he's gone down numerous times, and I think it was rectified today for them wearing glasses. Also like to thank Steve Filippi. He worked with us cutting a hunk of the fence out so we can get the UTV up on the breakwater and onto the beach if we need to. Bain Transu came down and moved the rock over about 1.5 feet so we could get up there, and we tried the UTV up there this weekend, or early 2 days ago, whatever that day is, Saturday morning.
Great. Thank you, Kirk. Sven Reese.
Thank you.
Ben, you're muted.
Tracy, just real quickly, this weekend, given the expected numbers, are you having, I can't remember the acronym, those guys come?
Yes, we've had extra help on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of last weekend, and we have them coming Tuesday this week, probably Thursday this week, and definitely for the weekend. I've asked, and every weekend we're going to have 2 extra people coming out. We actually have some spend tonight too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments? Bill McComb.
Ken, I was wondering if Dr. Walkoff could explain, I think it was DMAT or through EMA, there was some equipment that came out to assist up the medical center. I think it would be beneficial if the community knew that.
Tom, did you hear that?
I did. So after last weekend, we had a challenging time where we didn't have enough space for all the particular traumas that we were incurring at the moment. And Brooke Lawrence has really been a terrific advocate in helping us. And so I agree that the DMAT community has been great. He had once briefed me that they had a trailer that looks like a U-Haul trailer that has 2 operation beds in the back, in the trailer, air conditioned, a full setup for us to be able to see patients within the trailer. So after last weekend, I asked if it was viable, and he committed the trailer to the health center for the rest of the summer. And I appreciate all the help that Bill McComb did in logistically getting it here. So it's currently parked in the medical center parking lot. It is a freestanding air-conditioned unit that will serve two purposes for us. One is if we have any COVID respiratory related illnesses, we can now start seeing patients within that space and keeping those individuals outside of the clinical core area, which is helpful for our team as well as any patients that are within the building. And separately, if we get the alcohol intoxication, dehydrations that need certain procedures but don't need to tie up one of our trauma beds within the core room, then we will definitely use that facility as that landing zone. So it gives us an ability to flex out 2 additional fully equipped beds and flex it to be using it either as a respiratory place to isolate individuals and or for trauma. So we really appreciate their help. They also brought us, interestingly, what I would deem like a MASH unit. I came into my waiting room on Saturday and it looked like a MASH setup that I broke down. It's nice. We have the ability to flex out 4 other beds in another location, but we broke that down because we didn't need it at the moment. They are also helping us with a voluntary nurse or nurses that will come out so we can spell Linda at different times of the day or night or even over the weekend and have their assistance. It's really been terrific. So we have plenty of space and flex capability. We can flex out an additional 4 beds if we needed to with the stuff that we have currently in storage, and also manpower assistance has really been very beneficial. So we appreciate all their help at DMAT. And again, Bill McComb, thank you for logistically getting that on the boat, and it'll be parked here for the remainder of the summer.
Thank you, Tom. Well, thank you, Bill. That's good news. Hopefully I hope you don't need it. But that's good news. It's great to have the assistance from the state level. Further comments or questions? I think there's one of the things I think there is a consensus that for all the companies and all the businesses that are involved with providing transportation and or liquid libation, drinks, alcohol, I think we have a strong request from the council, from the rescue squad, from the EMS, from the police department to please do everything possible to curb any abuse of those privileges, whether it be riding a moped or getting served. And that will go a long way to solving some of these problems. And it's a matter of taking the responsibility to act in a proactive manner and be responsible for your actions. So I would hope that they'd be listening and that they might cooperate with this weekend, especially. Any further comments on this at this time? Hearing none, I'll move on.
Okay, Ken, I've got a question. So when is our next meeting?
16th,
Our next meeting?
I believe it's the 16th.
Okay, today's the 3rd.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's the 19th. Wednesday the 19th.
Okay, today's the 3rd. Next Monday is the 10th.
Yep.
It's a holiday.
And I know, that's where I'm going here. And we don't meet until the 19th?
That's the 3rd Wednesday, unless you want to call a meeting sooner.
I want to put on the calendar a possibility of having a meeting after next weekend. I think we have to.
Well,
I want to be sure that the slight improvement we saw, and I did. Again, it was only downtown, only that sector of downtown where I am. Things did appear better today. They did not. Today they seemed a lot worse. And if next weekend goes south, I'm not waiting until the 19th to deal with this.
All right, so the 12th then, that'll be Wednesday. Is everyone available on the 12th?
I can be.
Yes.
I mean, we may not need, maybe everything will be fine and nobody will get in trouble and everybody will behave the way they're supposed to behave. And we won't have to have a meeting and we won't have to call the state and tell them you've got to come down here and do something instead of just talking about it.
All right, well, we'll keep that option
I
open.
feel, I feel like I'm getting, I still feel like I'm getting no backing from the state. I'm glad the medical center is. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Well, they get credit for that. May I?
Well,
Andre, go ahead.
So are we gonna, do we need a motion, for anything about, land use? Do we need a motion to get accident reports? Do we need a motion for anything we discussed here, or are we gonna be, are we gonna get this stuff? Or is this gonna happen, or is this gonna be just a discussion?
Anyone can make a motion anytime they want. Go ahead, make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we direct the EMA to provide us with moped accident reports, for every moped accident that we have.
Andre, clarification, the EMA.
Our EMS guys, yeah, well, yeah, because they're the ones that are there.
you know,
EMTs.
you got the wrong group.
You need the police department.
Make a motion that we direct our police department to fill out and furnish us with accident reports for every moped accident that occurs on Block Island.
Second. Second.
I heard a second. Thank you. Just writing the motion down.
What happens if it's not a report?
Rick, before we go there, Ken?
Martha, did you want to follow up on it with a comment?
So I just had a question, because I mean, I know if somebody bumps into somebody in the big parking lot, well, we don't need to call the police, let's just deal with this. And does that happen with, and I guess use that as the busiest parking lot I could think of, because I'm not hanging out in any others. I think a lot of these just don't get written up at all. That's my concern. I'm afraid, this is one of the things that I fear about numbers, that we will have numbers that are not at all representative of what's actually going on unless we have complete numbers. And is there a way of assuring that? Because again, I'll use it again. I don't want to go back to the example of having, 12 calls for a liquor license holder that we know didn't cause any problems when that particular business had 12 police calls.
Well, if you have an accident and if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there, does it make a noise? If you have an accident and it's not reported to the rescue squad, it's not reported to dispatch, it's not reported to police, obviously you're not going to get a. However, if you have an accident and dispatch gets the call and a police officer is dispatched and or rescue is dispatched, then that would be a situation where you could get an accident report, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was last weekend, somebody went over on just going around Rebecca, and it just happened. The police were right there. And she wasn't hurt, but the police, I think it was the state police, told her to get off the moped.
Uh-huh.
And somebody came and picked the moped up. And I don't know if something like that gets written up or not. I just don't know. And that's what we need to know, because if those things are happening and not getting written up, then these numbers don't mean a thing. And I want to be sure these numbers are accurate and true and as complete as they can be.
Chris, I'm sorry, Kirk.
I believe not all those are being written up, Martha, because it has to take probably about a half an hour for them to fill all the paperwork out for somebody that they're just telling to take the moped back. We do have people that walk up that have fallen off a moped. No one's called. They walk up to the station because they just have road rash and they want to get checked out.
Yeah, that's my understanding, and I know the paperwork, and I think 30 minutes may be, conservative. I think it may take longer than that. And that's just my concern is if we're going to have numbers, if they're not going to be true numbers, they could say, oh, we only had 3 accidents last weekend when we all know there were 12. I just don't want that to happen. That's my concern.
Ken?
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
I think we'll have the conversation among the
rescue people and the law enforcement people about how best to provide some meaningful data. I agree with Martha. I think there's a reasonable likelihood that a particular approach might not, and you guys came up with a couple of examples already, might not reflect, kind of the increased enforcement and intervention. But at the same time, I also don't want to create a system where we're spending all our time reporting and not enough of our time actually intervening and changing behavior. And that was one of the chief's concerns. That's why he went to the summons instead of the full ticket at the scene, the way you would get if you got pulled over on 95, how long it takes, you got to write it all out. We're looking to, you'll get a summons later, and then we can get back to providing the intervention that we need to in the other places on the island. So I can have the conversation with the chief and Kirk and Tracy and others, see if we can put together something that's meaningful in terms of data.
Thank you.
Sven, go ahead.
Without complicating it, I feel that bicycles and bicycle accidents are just as bad as mopeds. I know we're very focused on mopeds right now. But I guess my question would be, if there's an emergency call, and I'm really thinking about emergencies and when the rescue squad gets called, if there's a bike accident, I'd love to know that. And I don't want to add to paperwork, but I think there's just as many problems with bicycles as there are with mopeds anecdotally, and I look forward to seeing data. So my question would be, does anybody want to amend the motion to include bicycle accidents?
Andre, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying here with the logistics of everything. I'm not muted, right? With the logistics, it's just frustrating that, like, if I were to get into a motor vehicle accident, or you were to get into a motor vehicle accident that ended up somebody going to a ride in an ambulance into a medical center and maimed and whatnot, we got to fill out an accident report. Insurance companies get notified. That just doesn't seem to be the case with, and I'm not going to use bicycles in the mix, because a moped is a motor vehicle. So what we're basically saying is, like, we're allowing motor vehicle accidents to go down and people are getting hurt, and we don't have a report on that. So basically what I'm looking for is a report on how often this is happening, so we have the data at hand to act on. So if you guys can figure out a way to get us that data, that's why I originally said the ambulance, because, like, the ambulance has the data. They're there. The EMS guys are there, but the police are also there directing traffic. So I mean, it's paperwork is paperwork, but these are motor vehicle accidents that I don't understand why there's no accident reports being filled out, because if it was 2 cars, you're damn right well there'd be an accident report filled out. And further, these accidents would be reported to insurance companies. Are these accidents aren't being reported to these operators' insurance companies, so these insurance companies have no idea that there's so much accidents going on. As far as I can tell, that's what I would assume, because there is no proof of any of that. So, I mean, I would also imagine that if we could report to those insurance companies, they'd be like, "Oh my God." So, there's many discussions to go on here, but I'm only going to focus on the data we can provide, the data that can be provided to us, so that we can act, real data. And I think this is the only way to get real data. So, however you think it's best to get the data to us, as long as we get it. So yeah, I'll amend my motion to to ask for accident reports for mopeds and bicycles, be filled out by the proper authorities.
I'll amend my second that.
Karen, if I may.
Go ahead, Martha.
I think you also have to remember, not only are mopeds motorized vehicles, but the proportional number, there are many, many more, that's my dog outside, many, many more bicycles on the roads, and you can skewer the numbers terribly unless you have that baseline established. But I think you're just complicating things completely. You know how I am about, that's not complicated. Let's just stick to one thing at a time and get the answer. And the only reason I was talking about trying to get a broader idea of moped accidents was the woman who went off the moped literally in front of me. Nobody got hurt, nothing happened, the moped didn't get damaged. If that had happened, the circumstances had been different. If traffic had been different, if the policeman hadn't been there, it could have caused a bad accident. And so I think those things are important to be included, even if somebody didn't even have road rash. If she went off a moped in the middle of going around Rebecca, she shouldn't be on a moped.
But it was coincidental in that instance, if you will, that the officers were on scene. If that had happened and the officers hadn't been on scene and she'd gotten up and dusted herself off and went on her merry way, there's no way for us to know that.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying, for the full extent of what we do know, and even though it wasn't an accident, this is what I'm saying, it wasn't an accident, there wasn't an accident report. I mean, is there any way they can just note, picked person up off street, sent walking without moped? Because I did see them do that more than once. And just the numbers of times that happens.
Right.
I think that's important. Because they were doing a lot of intervention. I don't believe they're only doing it in front of where I could see it.
Okay. Further discussion or comment?
I don't want to lose that. That's all.
Right. So Andre, it looks like you're looking for a redundancy in the reporting. That is to say, if there is an accident, police are dispatched. Whether or not EMS is or is not dispatched, you still want to see it. You're still looking for a report on that accident, even if there was no EMS necessary to be dispatched. Is that correct?
I think if there's an accident that requires the police to show up, there should be an accident report.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
I mean, well, obviously what Martha says, I mean, yeah, like how would that, she didn't hit anything, so to speak, but I mean, am I being unclear? I mean,
No, I'm just trying to clarify it. And then I think
I know, but like when there's an accident, when you run into a pole in town, you have to fill out an accident report, but there's no moped accident reports ever on anything for no reason, even people that are getting maimed. And I don't think that's right. So I don't know. Maybe you don't agree with me on that. Maybe you just, I don't know, but I think there should be accident reports for motor vehicle accidents. I could be wrong.
motion is on the table. Anyone, any further comments on it?
What's the final motion?
Final motion was to have the police department file accident reports for any accidents that occur.
Motor vehicle accidents.
What happened to bicycles?
I believe were taken off. Or were they?
Let me repeat my motion.
I thought they were added, but
All right, let me repeat my
This
motion.
is Molly. Bicycles were added as an amendment.
Okay.
It wasn't voted on.
That's correct. The amendment wasn't voted on.
Right. Well, it didn't have to be voted on if the motion was amended and the second was amended, right?
It should be voted on, and then the amended motion could be voted on.
All right. Would you read the entire motion back to me, Molly, please?
The motion I had was that Andre moved to direct the New Shoreham Police Department to fill out and furnish the town council with accident reports on Block Island, moped accident reports on Block Island. He then wanted to amend it to say, and bicycles accident reports to be filled out by the proper authorities.
Okay. So I guess we'll have a vote on the motion to amend. All those in favor? Andre?
Do you want me to redo that? Because basically all I'm looking for is accident reports and accident reports for all motor vehicle accidents that occur on Block Island. I mean, bicycles, like, yeah, that could be included too, but I can re-amend this, like, because I just don't, why do we don't have accident reports for motor vehicle accidents on Block Island? Like bikes, yeah, okay, that's great. We can add that. But I mean, I think it's important that we have motor vehicle accident reports provided to us or filled out so that the data is there. So do we have to include bikes? No, because they're not motor vehicles and they don't normally need an accident report. So I will further amend my motion. Just wipe the other slate clean. My motion is to require the Block Island Police Force to furnish the town council and have accident reports filled out for all motor vehicle accidents that occur on Block Island.
Second.
That's the motion.
Okay, thank you. Molly, do you have that?
I have that Andre withdrew his previous motions and he moved to require the NSPD to furnish accident reports for all motor vehicle accidents on Block Island. Is that to furnish the town council?
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions?
Does this include state reports as well?
Not at the moment. Well, you mean when state police respond?
Right.
Well, at the moment it doesn't. If you want to, I guess the police department can get that information. So yeah, it could include it. It would include it. So, further comments or questions? All those in favor? Andre?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Martha? Martha?
What did we end up with? We ended up with bicycles, without bicycles, with state reports, with town reports. Where are we? We dropped bicycles, I'm pretty sure. Do we add state reports?
No, we did not.
I'm going against it then.
Well, why wouldn't the state police be reporting these, be filling out reports anyway? Don't they on the mainland?
Yes.
They go to the mainland, is my point. I went through this. I had to get my report from the mainland.
Do you want me to amend this motion? Do I have to amend this motion to include state police too? Because if I do, I will. I mean, at this point, this is getting ridiculous.
Just make another motion once we finish voting on this one, and you can have that motion as a separate motion, Andre.
Okay, thank you.
Martha, did you want to vote affirmative or negative?
Simple.
I'll vote affirmative then.
Very good. I'll vote affirmative also. Motion carries unanimously. Andre?
You need another motion?
Sure, make a motion about the state police reports. also.
Yes.
Make a motion that any accident report filed by the state police be, I'll make a motion that the state police also file accident reports for any motor vehicle accident that occurs on Block Island, and furnish them to the town council. Is that adequate?
Motion by Andre.
Is that adequate? Will it actually work? I mean, I think we should ask the solicitor on that.
Yeah.
Probably not, but let's ask anyway.
Did you want to ask Catherine on that, Andre?
Is she online?
Catherine Marola, are you there?
I do.
Yeah, I think she's here. Catherine, are you there?
They just unmuted me. I've been trying to talk. You do not have the power to direct the state police. However, you can request it, but you don't have jurisdiction to require it.
I'll withdraw my motion and we can move on to the next topic on the agenda.
Thank you, Catherine.
I think I just got sandbagged. I just asked them to request them.
Yeah, can we, if Andre doesn't want to, I'll make a motion to request the state police to provide a report of all motor vehicle incidences, including mopeds on Block Island by the state police. That was a request.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Sven, seconded by Martha. Further discussion?
I think that request can be made at the end of the summer to the state police superintendent. We don't have to have a running tally. It could be in a report in October.
Only if the reports are made. I think the point of the motion was to make sure that the reports are made for the individual accidents.
That's a request that has to go to the superintendent.
Yep.
So I won't be voting for it. Like, that's a request that our police chief can ask the superintendent to do.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Sven,
Aye.
Chris,
Hey,
Andre,
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative also. Motion carries 4-1. Any other items that you want to bring up under this item on the agenda?
Ms. McCann, this is Molly.
I'm
Who
on.
voted against that?
I did. Chris Willie.
Thanks, Chris.
And Molly, it's clear that that was a request of the state police to report.
Yes, I got that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items anyone wants to bring up under this? We're still on the weekend activities, emergency medical services. Tracy, was there anything else you wanted to bring to our attention?
Nope, not at this moment. I think we've covered everything.
Great, thank you. Good luck this
Good
week.
weekend.
Thank you.
I have a question, of course.
Martha?
It's my understanding, and this is only hearsay, that Ballards is having another event this weekend, and there may well be other places. I only happen to have heard about Ballards. How do those numbers reconcile with the gathering numbers? I'm baffled by this whole operation. Can somebody talk to DBR and get a clarification? I'm not looking for it now, just if someone could talk to them this week and ask them how this all works.
Andre, do you have
It makes absolutely no sense.
on the meetings?
I'm sorry. What did you say, Ken?
I didn't know if you had if you could answer Martha's question based on your attendance at the meetings with the state folks.
That has not come up. I mean, it came up earlier in the season, when you and Jim were both on the calls. I don't have an answer to that. I think we'll go back to what Martha said earlier.
Okay, I think earlier in the season, Martha, the reason it was doing it was because they were providing a plan and showing and presenting it and getting approval, I believe, from DBR for the particular situation. But we can certainly find
So
out.
they are, it's not just obviously, it's not just ballots on Block Island, and it's not just Block Island, it's the whole state.
Right.
And how these things are working and who's in the loop on Block Island about this. I mean, we are the liquor board.
Yeah. Okay. Anything further on this item? If not, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is to receive and act on a proposed motor vehicle for hire regulations pursuant to Town of New Shoreham Ordinances 8-161C1. Regulations adjusting rate sheets, passenger destinations, sanitary conditions, driver attire, pets, children, multiple fares, charging incorrect rates. Molly, you've indicated that we have word from the Motor Vehicle for Hire Commission that they don't have anyone available to answer any questions on this item tonight.
That's correct.
Okay. Did anyone want to pursue any of these suggestions, or you want to wait till we get some representation from the commission?
I would prefer representation because I don't know what half of these mean.
Okay, I agree.
I mean, some of these are little, I don't know.
Okay,
I would like representation.
all right.
Thank you.
I would suggest we put it off to a future meeting then. We'll try to coordinate with the commission and get some representation so we can get some answers. Any other thoughts on that for anyone? Martha? Go ahead.
I recuse.
Okay, all right. All right, so the next item on the agenda then will be to receive and act on a report of Charter Review Commission and charter questions for voter approval. Molly, can you fill us in on this?
I can, but I saw that Keith Stover is in the meeting. Maybe he'd have a word or two.
Okay, I didn't realize he was on with us. Keith, are you there? I don't have him identified. Oh, there he is.
Yes. I just woke up.
Okay.
Keith, are we that boring? You're running to join us? Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Very briefly, we just have not finished a lawyer draft and the resolutions, so it is not yet ready to come before you.
Okay. And the ramifications of that are?
That it will have to be voted on at a referendum other than the November ballot.
Okay. Any questions for Keith at this point? All right, Keith, thank you for that. And
thank you, guys.
Look forward to getting the report as soon as we can.
Thank you.
And,
yeah, so do we.
Next item on the agenda is receive and act on 2020 game license applications. We have a renewal. This is an annual thing. We have a proposal before us for renewal of game licenses from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 for the following establishments. All those games for 3 licenses: Champlain's Marina for the game, Champlain's Trader Vic's for 1 gaming device and 1 table game, Club Soda for 2 table games, Neptune House for 2 table games, and Old Island Pub for 2 table games, and 2 gaming devices and 1 table game. The Yellow Kittens will not be renewing their game license this summer. Molly, do we have indication that these businesses are definitely interested in renewing these licenses?
Yes, the businesses on the list have responded with that number of table games. There are a couple that the Yellow Kittens will want their license next year, and Club Soda will want to go back up to 4 games next summer. This is kind of a COVID-19 summer situation where I'd appreciate the town to support any efforts to limit social distancing by taking a hiatus on some of the games this summer. For instance, Club Soda, they're only licensing 2 of their 4 games, and that's really a benefit for social distancing. So next year they're going to come back for the other 2 game licenses, and I'd like you to show them some support.
Okay, I noticed that. I noticed that in a proposal for a motion, it does talk about pursuant to applicable reopening Rhode Island guidelines and any restrictions suggested or required by the Department of Health and DBR. That was made clear to the businesses at the time of their application.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a change. As we all know, it's a moving target. Games can have a fairly high degree of social contact. DBR is allowing games at this time, but we don't know what's around the corner.
But I believe they're allowing games with restrictions, that is to say, in terms of cleaning and that sort of thing.
That's right.
Okay, and that's understood. Okay. Any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I think the thing that jumps out at everybody is Champlins. They've got 20 gaming devices at Champlin. Everybody else is 2 or 3.
All right.
I mean, Champlins is big, but that's just silly.
Any other comments?
I mean, are there any regulations, specific regulations governing this, other than those broad reopening regs that we all have?
Regulations in terms of the town ordinance or regulations in terms of the DOH?
The DOH.
As Ken mentioned, there are regulations for cleaning. We were trying to put the burden on the applicant to follow the DOH and DBR regulations without inserting ourselves into the middle of it. We can certainly do a little bit more research, and you can hold off on.
But that would include not only cleaning, but also social distancing, I believe.
Yeah.
All right. Other comments or questions? Martha, did you want a follow-up question on that?
No, it all seems kind of pointless. Nothing further.
Okay.
What is it that you, if you want this to be continued, how can I help you? What is it that you want from me?
Well, are you talking to me, Molly?
Yeah, if you have questions about whether or not to renew these game licenses.
Well, I mean, it wasn't to let them go or to cease them forever. It was just the number at Champlin seemed to be inordinately high in comparison. It's like almost 7 times what Aldo's is, and 20 times Soda, Neptune, and Old Island.
Right, they're renewing the same number of games that they had last year, and we tried to put the burden of compliance on them.
Yeah, I got that. I just
they certainly haven't increased.
I understand that.
Chris Willie?
So Martha's concern, let's keep in mind that Traders interior isn't open, and I know there's an application for games in there, but Traders is not open and it's not opening. Also, the game room at Champlin's, they've reduced the number of games and spaced them accordingly to comply with the COVID-19 guidelines. I think the request for the same number of games is probably so they don't lose them, which if they were told that's not, I'm just telling you the existing situation down there. So to Martha's point, she has a good point. If you're permitting 20 games, they put 20 games in the game room, then you kind of throw all this COVID-19 things out the window, regardless of the cleaning end of it. But as of right now, they don't have 20 games in the game room. They have them, they reduced the number of games and they're spaced out, just so you know.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to renew the game licenses for July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 for the following establishments pursuant to applicable reopening Rhode Island guidelines. and any restrictions suggested or required by the Rhode Island Department of Health and the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulations, and also pending inspection by the New Shoreham Police Department to confirm the number of games. Aldo's Game Room for 3, Champlain's Marina 19 and 1, 19 gaming devices, 1 table game. Champlain's Trader Vic's 1 gaming device and 1 table game. Club Soda, 2 table games. Neptune House, two table games. And Old Island Pub, 2 gaming devices and 1 table game. Yellow Kittens will not be renewing their game license this summer, and the applications are on file in the clerk's office and are available for town council review. That's my motion.
Second.
Second.
Second by Andre. All those in favor, Andre?
I'd like to amend the motion.
Go ahead.
I'd simply like to amend the motion only to add that should any one of these establishments wish to have fewer licenses this year, they will in no way be penalized by not having the full amount.
Thank you.
Molly, go ahead.
I just thanked Martha for the spirit of the motion. Administratively, we've been trying to work with people through the COVID situation.
I will. amend-
I'm sorry, who's trying to speak? Andre?
It's me. I just was going to amend my second, and I assume that would cover the Yellow Kittens not picking up any game licenses, correct? This year.
Yes.
Right.
I'll amend my second.
I guess I'll amend my motion. Martha,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Fine. Good.
Okay. So, all those in favor of the amended motion? Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Back to the original motion. All those in favor of the original motion as amended? Chris?
Aye.
Andre?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is discuss and act on possible amendment to emergency ordinance 2 of the adopted May 27th, 2020 pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a placeholder that we put on in the past several meetings. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up and act on in terms of this amendment, in terms of this ordinance at this time?
I have nothing.
Hearing nothing. Next item on the agenda is discuss and act on possible amendment to emergency ordinance 3 of Town of New Shoreham adopted June 24th, 2020, masks pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic. Any discussion or comment? Hearing none, I will move on. Next item on the agenda is receive and act on minutes. I was not able to print out and or review all the minutes. There were quite a few of them. So I'd like to put this off till the next meeting. Any comments or questions?
I agree.
I appreciate that, Ken. I also agree. I've actually just been kind of trying to read them during the gaming discussion, keeping one ear on that and 2 eyes on those. But if I'd like to digest these. Thank you. I don't mind moving on.
Okay. No, we'll take no action on this at this time then. Chris, you all right with that?
I am.
Martha?
All set.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and act on town manager contract negotiations and pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42461A1. The meeting will be held in closed session for the discussion of job performance, character, physical, or mental health of persons, provided that such persons affected shall have been notified in advance in writing and advised they may require discussion be held in an open meeting. We will be going into closed session on this item. And if we will be coming out of closed session at the end of it. So if anyone is interested, they can stand by, and when we come out of closed session, we'll come back to the open. Motion to go into closed session.
I'll second.
Seconded by Andre. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Good.
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. We will be going into closed session. Thank you, Rowan, for joining us. If we don't see you again later, have a great evening and be safe.
Can I just to follow up on that, Molly, the codes to get into the closed session are in the same, are they in the same email as the open one?
Yes, they are. If you find you need one, send me a text.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Appreciate
Councilor Marola to join us also, please.
Yes, I'll be there.
Thank you.
Molly, will you just send them? They're very,
Yeah, yep, I will.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Martha, Andre, and Kathy? Can't hear you, Martha.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sounds good.
I'm here. I'm here. I just wasn't talking.
Wait, did you raise your hand?
I don't. I'm just pushing buttons.
Okay, you raised your hand a little bit.
Yeah, I think I raised my hand when I meant to unmute,
Okay.
which is why I'm going back to what I used to do.
I'm letting people in left and right, just so you know there's a guest. Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Chris, there's one or two people in the meeting that I haven't identified. Just FYI. Here comes Ken. Mr. First Warden.
Who shouldn't have fireworks, Andre?
All right,
The rest of you are hearing fireworks, right?
Nope.
I heard them.
Okay, we don't count. You're like in the town hall, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You're like in a hole there. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm not. It's behind me, and by the time I hear it, obviously it's over. Sounds like it's over the pond or over the beach. I figured it was Andre, but it's too far away.
Okay, do we have everybody? I think Sven, are you here? I think so. I'm waiting for Sven. Andre, are you in?
I'm in.
Okay. Just waiting for Sven, I think. Are you there? Nope.
No, I kept the other one.
There he is.
Molly, have you been in contact with Sven?
Yes, he just got in.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It took me a while to find the link also.
Sorry, I had it in something weird with the computer, so sorry.
I have trouble. We have a couple of unidentified guests with us.
Yep. All right. We'll come back into open session. No votes were taken in closed session. I will make an announcement. I'll make a motion. We didn't take any votes in closed session, but I want to make a motion in open session that the town sign a contract, 5-year contract with Mary Ann Crawford for town manager.
Second.
Seconded by Chris, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. Motion unanimous, carries 5 votes to none. I'd like to welcome Mary Ann Crawford to the town service, and we look forward to working with her and look forward to getting her on board in a few weeks. And that'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Andre. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I approve also. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ken, for all your work.
No. Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.